Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. How's everybody enjoying Jack in the Box and all of J-Hope's promotions this week? So for BTS Army, it was a very big week for J-Hope with the album to promote, and he also traveled to Chicago, Illinois to perform at Lollapalooza as a headliner. Now, I did not go to this. I'm not a festival person. I like to have an assigned seat and not be outside for long periods of time. But it looked very cool online, and I'm very curious to hear from any listeners if you went to see this in person and what your experience was. But yeah, it looked like a really good concert, especially J-Hope's set. I don't know about the rest of it. I didn't watch any other parts of the festival. I was a little mad that those of us in the US couldn't watch it on Weverse Live, as they decided not to let that air in the US. It seemed to be the first time they tried to show something live on Weverse Live. It must be something that they're launching, that they're adding to Weverse, as we know that they've combined V Live with Weverse. So I don't know when that's going to be, 100% integrated. But yeah, they said that if you're in the US, you can watch on Hulu, but if you're not in the US, you could watch on Weverse Live. And I don't pay for Hulu, so that wasn't an option either. So there wasn't really an option that was easy for me to use. So, but I found a way to watch it, so it's all good. And I saw today that Bangtan TV did post the full Lollapalooza set, all 1 hour and 16 minutes, on YouTube. So I think that's amazing that they turned it around so fast. And Hybe, did that for Army. I'm sure they got the rights or something as part of him being the headliner there. And I'm sure there's a lot of Army who weren't able to watch this live on Sunday night. And so now you have the full set that you can watch whenever you want to watch it. And definitely watch it because this used, the Hybe cameras or whatever. And they have, lots of close-ups and good angles for the performance. I also have seen, plenty of fan cams from people that were there on YouTube, but of course, it's going to be just from one vantage point, so it's not going to be the same as this, nice video that they put together that Hybe has posted on Bangtan TV. So definitely check that out if you didn't see it. And so the 1 hour set, and I guess it was supposed to be 1 hour, but it sounds like he ended up performing for longer. And it went very fast. When I was watching it live, they had a good mix of Jack in the Box songs and songs from Hope World. And he also did some of his BTS solo songs. And I guess Chicken Noodle Soup is like a, single release, I guess you could call that. So his show starts out with the spoken part from Jack in the Box at the very beginning, where it talks about Pandora's box and the story behind that. And he, at the end of that, J-Hope, he pops right out of a giant Jack in the Box. And I think he was on a spring or something. They've done that before at concerts, I believe, but it seemed like he was jumping so high. I don't know if it's kind of like launching him in the air. Hopefully that was done safely. So he pops out of this big Jack in the Box, and he's got a black outfit on, and his styling for this performance, he's got hair grown out. I don't know if it was been growing all this time or if he added some extensions or something like that, but he had very long wavy hair, and he looked very hardcore. He looked rock and roll, so very fitting for Lollapalooza. And I also want to comment on, there were tons of Army in the audience. I mean, I'm sure that was obvious, but I'm glad so many were there to support him, and they had their army bombs out and were wearing like, all sorts of Jack in the Box or J-Hope inspired outfits. So I'm sure that helped him out to know that there was all that support out there, and people knew all the words to all the songs. So that was really good, and it was very nice to see. And especially, his album just came out, and people know like all the lyrics already. I think that says a lot about someone's fans. And so his first song that he performed was More, and I think that was a perfect opening song. And he sang it very well. Of course, he sounds really good live. And after that, he did Pandora's Box, and then Baseline, and then he did a part of Cypher Part 1. Right before he did that, he said, "This is for the OG army out there." Oh, I also want to point out, he seemed to use a lot of profanity. I mean, we know like BTS, okay, they never swear, or like rarely. They've only, say it a couple of times in a concert, if at all. But he seemed to be swearing a lot. So I don't know if it was just like, does J-Hope just like swear all the time and like his daily life, and he just tones it down for anything BTS related, or did he just kind of like decide, I'm gonna let loose as a solo artist and just say whatever comes to mind, and he got like really hyped up in the moment? I don't know, but he was saying a lot of things, so I was like, oh my god, I'm not used to hearing that from BTS members that much, so it was kind of funny. So yeah, then he did a Cypher Part 1. I don't know. I don't think that was the whole song, because, some of these were shortened versions of it. And after that, he did Hang Sang from the Hope World album. And then he had a short Meant, where he said, "I'm J-Hope from BTS, but you can call me Jay." I was like, that's great. That's a great way to start and introduce yourself. And said he wanted to thank his fans army, but then a lot of you might be seeing me for the first time today, and it's great to be here. And he said that he is going to be singing songs from his new album, Jack in the Box, and that he poured his heart and soul into this album. So I think that was good that he acknowledged that, a lot of army is there, but also a lot of festival goers who might not be that familiar with BTS or K-pop or anything, that may be in his audience, giving him a chance just to see, what that's all about. So I think he knew like he's here to give a great show for everybody, whether you're army or a casual music fan. Then after this comment, he went into Piece of Peace, and after that, Equal Sign, which I really loved hearing Equal Sign live. And he also sang that on IU's show, which we'll talk about a little later. But I think this is a very good song, and it's a very J-Hope-esque song. I think RM said that when he did his live, and he said, that song is the most J-Hope to me. And I was like, yeah, I can see why people would say that, because it really lines up with the J-Hope optimism and positive attitude, and it's, trying to bring everybody together. That's definitely something you would associate with J-Hope. So I think that was a great song to hear live. He followed that with Stop, and then Blue Side, and then Safety Zone, What If, Arson, and then while Music Box Reflection was playing, since that's an instrumental, that was the time for him to do an outfit change. So he switched from the all black outfit to an all white outfit with blue gloves and sunglasses. And I think that's great that there is an outfit change. I don't think that happens very often at Lollapalooza or a music festival. Typically an artist will just have the same outfit the whole time, especially if they're, rap or rock. They're definitely not having multiple outfits. So I think that was a great touch. And so after that, he went into he did Dynamite Tropical Mix, and I don't believe he sang during that part, but it was a part where he and the dancers, they did some all new choreo. So I think that was really fun to watch, and it was like very different from the regular Dynamite choreo. So it was very interesting to watch. I wonder if their choreographer came up with that, or J-Hope, developed some different moves. So yeah, maybe we'll hear more about that another time, another interview. And he went into Daydream after that, and then Outro Ego, which that's one of my favorite J-Hope songs, Outro Ego. And I think the crowd is so lucky to hear that. This is, I think, been the only time that's been performed in front of people. The other time he performed that, it was at a Suwuzu, which couldn't have people there because of COVID. So I'm pretty sure this is the only time that's been seen live. So that's such a great moment for people there. And then he did Hope World. And after that, he had another short comment about, he was talking about Chicago and how he was here for BTS tour years ago, and he's getting ready to do his next song, and he's glad to be back here in Chicago. And so the next song was Just Dance, and so of course we all know that's one of his solo songs within BTS. That's one of his, and that's a great song. After that, he did Chicken Noodle Soup and brought out Becky G. Of course, she did her part, and so I think that was great to see them together, interacting. I don't think they ever performed it together. This might have been the only time, other than, when they made the MV. But I think, yeah, this might have been the only time they've done Chicken Noodle Soup live with Becky G. I know he did sing this song also at Suwuzu, but that was with the other members, and I remember Jimin and RM did the Becky G parts. So yeah, she was not there. I think this might have been the only time it's been done live. So that's another great opportunity for people there, that once in a lifetime performance there. And Becky G even had a short comment afterwards. She said she was so honored to be there, and that she was so proud of J-Hope, thankful for their friendship and the opportunity. And I think that was really nice of her. She was there to perform, and then that she took a moment to say some nice things about J-Hope. And I think it's obvious to everybody who works with J-Hope how hard he works and how dedicated he is to his music. He deserves to get all of the credit, for sure. J-Hope's had some comments in Korean for those watching at home. I don't think that part was translated, but I'm just assuming he said, some similar things to what he said before. He said the next song is dedicated to all our futures. Now at this part, I don't know why, but I was getting tears in my eyes, because I was I don't know if I would be able to sing that song, because it's probably hitting him right at that moment, that it was such a huge stage, and it's a big time for his career, and the song's about future, and it just seems like a very emotional time. But of course he sang it really well. His voice didn't waver at all, so I think that's how he ended his set, and I think it went very well overall. I was impressed with his stage presence and how they had everything set up with the video screen, all the colors. They had the, whatever that's called, the air that's blowing at certain times from the stage, like the whoosh, during certain parts, and they had pyrotechnics. So they definitely went all out for his set. He looked like a total rock star with his long hair, and he had very cool outfits. They were baggy and unique, and I think it had great vibes throughout. The crowd loved it. I think everybody enjoyed it, including the festival goers who heard J-Hope for the first time, I think they were pretty impressed because he gave them a pretty good show. Because, I mean, when you think about it, other artists, sometimes they're not that great live. You're performing at Lollapalooza, you've done this set already many times before, so you're kind of just like going through the motions, you're just phoning it in, same songs that you've been doing for many years. Especially rock bands, they tend to be like, they've been around a long time, and so they don't have as much of a enthusiasm as they used to. But I think J-Hope definitely has tons of enthusiasm at all times, and anyone in BTS is always going to give their full effort for a show, and they always sound amazing live. And I don't know if you remember, but when we talked about Outro Ego, when that song came out, Morgan had said that J-Hope is the BTS member that he can totally see working as a solo artist in terms of having the ability to command a stage by himself and having a full persona and a point of view. Like, when a song, oh, that's a J-Hope song, like for sure. He has an identity that's sorted out, and he also has like a lot of all-around talent. It's like singing, dancing, rapping, and a look. So I think if you didn't know he was in a group, that might be surprising information to find out later, because he looks like a solo artist. He looks like someone who can do, all the parts of being a musician. That's what it looks like. And he had a lot of confidence. He didn't look like, anything was tentative or unsure. I mean, of course, he's many years experience performing, so that part wasn't surprising. But yeah, I think he impressed everybody with this. And I remember hearing like he sold the most tickets for that Sunday ever of any artist. Like, I don't know how you determine that. I guess I didn't know you buy tickets for particular artists at Lollapalooza. I thought you just buy a ticket and then you just go wherever you want to go, like whatever stage. But somehow they've figured out that J-Hope was the reason for the most people buying tickets this year, and I think ever, possibly. That's a great accomplishment for him. He also had his own merch store. I don't think they normally do that. I mean, they have merch of all the artists there, but I think it's just available, all in one place. The multiple bands, you go to the whichever merch place and it has all of their stuff there. But it sounded like the J-Hope stuff was off in its own area because, it's going to be such a popular place to go. So not surprising, but that's another great thing for J-Hope. Probably sold tons of merch. And I noticed, I listened to the album, and it sounded like live they did a lot. It really benefited, I think, live, because they were able to add more guitar, make it sound more like rockified. I don't know how exactly they do that, but, it's like they had those like electric guitar sounds and like guitar solos. Just the way it sounds live, it definitely enhanced everything. I know that TXT was also performing at Lollapalooza. Now, I didn't have a chance to see any of their performance, so if any of you listeners caught that, let me know how that went. I'm sure it was also a success. And I know Bang PD had made the trip as well, and he was there supporting J-Hope, and he was also shown, earlier in the week watching performers, so that was pretty funny, pretty cool. He's very involved in there, having to see it all play out. So that's great that J-Hope had the support there. And then, speaking of support, Jimin had left for Chicago 2 days before. I mean, he left for Chicago from Korea, and then we didn't know that he was going to be there too. Like, we're like, oh, is he like performing, or is he just going just to watch J-Hope perform? And yeah, it turns out he didn't perform himself. He was just there for moral support. And when J-Hope and Jimin did a V Live after the show, and J-Hope even said that he was like stressed out, he wasn't eating, but when Jimin arrived, he relaxed and he ate better, and he realized how much he leans on the members for support and how much they help each other. So I was like, wow, that was a really smart thing of Jimin to do, because I'm sure it helped J-Hope be less stressed about the situation when you have people you trust, your friends that are there to support you. And I think that was really sweet, because I'm sure Jimin has his stuff to work on too. He's working on his music and whatever other projects that are part of his chapter 2. So he definitely took a couple of days away from his stuff just to support J-Hope. So I think that was really nice as a friend for him to do that. And, I'm sure he wanted to check out the show in person too. And maybe the other members wanted to go as well, but, couldn't take away from their schedules. But, I think that was great, because I read that it was not a planned thing by Hybe for Jimin to go. He just kind of decided to, and just headed out on his own. And in their V Live, Jimin, he just wouldn't stop talking about how amazing J-Hope's performance was, and he thought it was so cool, and he loved all the profanity. And I was like, oh yeah, of course they would like that. They would think that's a really fun part of it, which is funny. And then so I think it was very great for Jimin to go out and support him. And, at the end of the day, BTS members, they're all there for each other. They have genuine friendships, as you can see. And J-Hope was super thankful that Jimin made the trip. And I saw that there were some photos of Jimin at the side of the stage watching. And, when he was leaving, he was seen there. So it seemed like he loved the show. And as far as local reaction to J-Hope's performance, I thought it would be good to read some of these comments from Lollapalooza locals, I guess, because we know that J-Hope's goal was to reach a wider audience of music fans other than ARMY. And, I don't know if that his intention is because, like, he's a solo artist at this time, and so he wants to appeal to fans other than just ARMY, or if he felt like his music now has a kind of different audience, and so he wants to make sure, reaches as many people as possible, that they'll give him a chance, just because he's someone who's from K-pop. Sometimes people have a bias against that. So there were some comments I saw. They're from Reddit, but I've seen them like screenshots on Twitter and Facebook. Someone named 13 File says, just came back from the show, and as someone who's never heard of this guy but obviously have heard of BTS, I went in with an open mind since he was the headliner who replaced Doja Cat, and man, I can say he exceeded my expectations. Easily one of the best performers of the night. And I was looking around the venue, and these people were literally singing these songs word for word in a different language and holding this bubble stick up the entire time. And I don't know what song the third one was that had that crazy ass trap beat, but I need to find it, and I need it on my playlist. Also the one where he's singing when he first got the mic. Loved his voice on that track. His songs were extremely diverse and just overall fun to watch. An incredible performer, and I did not expect him to have that much energy. I would have been burnt out by the fourth song. And yeah, that is very true. BTS, they don't stop during a performance. It's like nonstop energy and dancing and running around the stage. So somehow they have trained themselves to do that. Now someone named Hell Night Killa says, rock pop fan here. My top 5 fave bands at the moment are Foo Fighters, Nine Inch Nails, Metallica, Weezer, and Queens of the Stone Age. Okay, I was trying to figure out this acronym. I was like, what is Q? What? Okay. And so he says, I'm assuming it's a guy. Knowing that, you'd think I would go to Green Day, but I had a feeling it would be a repeat performance of Hella Mega, Shaky Knees, and Innings Fest. I was right. Okay, so I guess there was another festival that Green Day performed at, and they kind of did the same exact set. So he decided to go to J-Hope instead at Lollapalooza. He says, instead I went to J-Hope since it would be a rare opportunity to see something very different, K-pop. It was an incredible performance, and I was stunned by the crowd interaction. I even found myself headbanging to some of the songs, too. It was a great way to end the festival weekend, and I can safely say that I get it. It was definitely a standout performance for me, and it's having me rethink my top 5 for this year. For J-Hope, I think that was mission accomplished. People that were like rock and rap fans, or someone who just goes to Lollapalooza, if they caught J-Hope's show, it seemed like they really loved it. So good for him. I talked about the Jack in the Box pre-release party last episode, but since then, Bangtan TV released a behind-the-scenes episode of the party on July 27th. And we got to see, like they said, more behind the scenes of the party, like beforehand, and the members getting ready and stuff like that. And it kind of reinforced some of what we were seeing in the footage that was out there already. I was just amazed that what people were sensing was actually accurate. And it's just amazing how the members of BTS, they still get nervous in front of people, and when they meet celebrities, and it's like they are celebrities, so how are they still this humble and still nervous in social situations? You think they've dealt with everything. They performed in front of thousands and thousands of people, and yet these like relatable situations, they act like one of us. Like they're shy, they're nervous, they're not sure they can greet people that are very famous. Like, what do you say? We saw that in this Bangtan Bomb that J-Hope was kind of nervous to host the party on his own, and he was talking to Jin. He's like, he wanted to have Jin beside him, and then J-Hope said, I feel uncomfortable meeting new people. Do I have to do the meet and greet? One of them, I think it might have been Jin, was saying to RM, it's like, RM, how do you say hi to celebrities? And we saw in the footage, like Jin was standing by himself for, some amount of time with his drink, and is kind of like looking around nervously, and you could definitely see the nervous energy, and it's like, okay, this is awkward. And Jungkook, sometimes he would be sitting on the sidelines, and then every once in a while be dancing. And even the editing, it's like the way they put the subtitles, it's like, okay, the editors, they know, they get the same sense that we do. It's like they're not like 100% comfortable in these social situations. We did see RM did absolutely fine. He was like mingling with everybody, looked very comfortable. He looked like he's one of the high executives. It's like, he just looks so like relaxed, and it's like, yeah, hi, saying hi to people. And there was even a part where he's looked like, we didn't hear what they're saying, but it looked like he was reassuring J-Hope that everything is going well, or that, what he's hearing from the listening party, like he really likes the songs. So yeah, RM looked like he was very comfortable, and V also looked like he was very comfortable being social. He was like dancing in the like middle of the dance floor for much of the time, and he looked as comfortable at this pre-release party as he was in the middle of the senior age jazz club in Vegas. It's like, it doesn't matter what's going on around him. He's totally fine, having fun on his own. Yeah, it just seemed like the camera being on them, somehow it made it more awkward, or they captured more awkwardness than we typically see. So I'm just not sure if, okay, did I never notice that before in like, many other Bangtan Bombs? Or is it just this is a unique social situation that they haven't been in before, because this is now the chapter 2 time, and they're doing different solo things, which might be very new types of experiences. And we're seeing that they're not completely comfortable in every situation. So I just thought this was a video that kind of showed a little more of their behavior and their nervousness in social situations. So before J-Hope performed at Lollapalooza, he arrived in Chicago several days before. It's like he had plenty of time, and I think he probably needed time to rehearse, but also, it's a long trip, so you want to adjust to the time zone and get enough rest and, get situated. And we saw some footage of him in places in Chicago. It looks like he checked out some Chicago-style pizza, which if you've never had that, it's a very thick crust pizza with a lot of tomato sauce. Some people think like excessive tomato sauce and not too much cheese. So he tried that out. It looked pretty good. I've never tried it, but when in Chicago, you want to try the delicacies there. And I was glad to see him eating, and because like I said, he said that with the stress of the album and everything, he wasn't eating very well, so it took like Jimin flying over there to make him more comfortable and eating a little better. But we did see the picture of him eating Chicago pizza, so he did get some food at some point there. But I don't know if you guys noticed, but he seems like very skinny lately, and I can only assume that it's from working so hard on his promotions and, a lot of rehearsals, because that would take up a lot of energy, and, working the whole day without rest, that I'm sure that took a toll on his weight. But yeah, he seemed very thin, like more than usual. Seeing him the week of Lollapalooza, he looked like that's the thinnest I've seen him. But I did think it worked for his look because he had the longer hair and, very sharp cheekbones. So he looked very much like a rock star. So you can kind of see the difference too if you look at the cover of him on Jack in the Box versus like his Instagram pics from Chicago. You could definitely see the difference on his face. So hopefully now that the whole thing is over, he can be a little more relaxed and less stressed. I wonder what his other plans for the album are after Lollapalooza, because it seemed like that was going to be the big moment for J-Hope's solo release time period. But yeah, maybe he possibly has more appearances on shows and things like that. Like, I wonder if he's going to be submitted for music shows. So that'll be interesting to see how well he can continue to promote in Korea. I know that Chapter 2, they're going to have another song coming out already. Bad Decisions, the collab with Benny Blanco and the vocal line and Snoop Dogg, is coming out soon. So, and then I'm sure we'll hear about whoever is the next album, in the next weeks or so. But speaking of J-Hope's promotion, he did an interview with IU, and I didn't know this, but IU has a show that is available on YouTube. I don't know if it's also airing on a TV channel in Korea or not, but IU has a show, and she has people on as guests, other musicians, and then they talk about their music and what's going on with them. I watched it, and this is something, I don't think anyone else in BTS has been on her show before, but it might be a pretty new show, so they maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity before. But so IU is a solo artist, I'm sure you know, in K-pop, and she has her show, and so she had J-Hope on, and for some reason they had matching outfits on. They were both wearing like white shirts. I don't know if that was planned or not, but they went together really well, their look. J-Hope, he seemed a little bit nervous. Maybe he doesn't do very many promotions where it's just him, so it's something a little bit different. And so he first gets there, and she said that she's thankful that her show was chosen, as a place where he's going to promote his album. And he said he chose her show because she draws out sincerity in the artists, and that they are able to sing each other's songs, and it requires respect, from a fellow artist to be able to, sing each other's music. So I thought that was very interesting to note, is that J-Hope is the one that decided to do her show. It wasn't like Hybe said, okay, J-Hope, you go here and here. It was he decided that's going to be a good place where he can discuss with another artist. And so she said, okay, congrats on his new solo album. And she really enjoyed more the pre-release track and the MV, and how the concept was very different than she expected. And then they talked a little bit about what J-Hope and IU have in common. And they both like mint chocolate, and J-Hope also likes green tea ice cream. And they're both fans of a group called God or God. Yeah, I wasn't sure who that was, so I had to look that one up. But they are both fans of this group, and they are both afraid of water. And then J-Hope added that he's also afraid of heights, bugs, and loud noises. And we've seen this on Run BTS, all the things J-Hope is afraid of. So IU also mentioned how she's seen like the J-Hope drunk memes, and she said that his mood rapidly goes down when you get drunk. And then they showed that funny Festa clip from 2018 where J-Hope was drinking, and then he looked totally out of it later on. And another thing they both have in common is that they both reached for their dreams at a young age. And then she asked, why did J-Hope want to become a singer? And then he says he got a good response performing in his 5th grade talent show. So that's when he wanted to pursue, the music industry. She asked him, why did he choose Jack in the Box as the title of the album? And then he went into about how he came up with his name, J-Hope, how it has to do with the Pandora's Box story. And also he made the analogy that the music he performed until now was inside the box. Now it is popping outside of the box. And so that's what he feels like his new album and the solo work is portraying. So that was kind of what was the theme of the More video. And IU says it took courage for him to tone down dance, which he's known for, and to try new areas of music. And she noticed also that the sound was heavy. It was like very hip hop, but the lyrics were very positive and sincere. And she kept quoting from What If and some of the other songs. And then she was saying how good it was. And J-Hope, like this whole interview, he was like smiling and blushing and like hearing all of these good things being said about him. So it was really sweet. And they sang together, IU and J-Hope. I guess that's part of the show. Both artists sing together. So they sang Equal Sign, and I think the song sounds really good as a duet. Like she did the vocal parts, he did the rap part, and then at the very end they kind of harmonized on the equality is you and me part. And then afterwards she was like, your eyes were shaking when our eyes met at the end. And then he was laughing and he was like feeling embarrassed about that. So I think she said that like the lyrics were so good in Equal Sign, and it made her want to make eye contact with J-Hope. And I was like, wow, they're really getting along very well here. Then they sang an IU song, Hero Laughs at Us. I'm not very familiar with this song, but that was a good song too. She asked him about, performing songs with choreo. Like, doesn't BTS get tired? And he says, yes, they collapse afterwards after concerts. And, IU says, well, her concerts are more about exerting her vocal cords. J-Hope answered some other Q&A, talking about performing in a large stadium and why does he use 2 exclamation points when he types things, and who is he consider his musical colleagues. And so that brought up the fact that, okay, musical colleagues, I'm going to have this listening party that I'm nervous about, and, other artists are going to be listening to my music. And then all of a sudden, IU puts him on the spot for not inviting her to his listening party. And she's like, how come I wasn't invited? And then he, didn't know what to say. It's like, I'm sure that wasn't his, sole decision or anything. Maybe they just didn't think, she's a singer. Maybe she's not, interested in a hip hop album. I don't know. I don't know what the thought process was, but it was kind of funny how she's like, thanks for the invitation. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure why she wasn't invited, but I'm sure he would have, knowing that she liked the album so much. I'm sure in hindsight, J-Hope wished he invited her. So she talked about some of the other songs. She really liked the lyrics to Safety Zone and the message, and she said that he seems like such a kind person and modest, and he even came to practice with her band for this show. And she's like, no one else really does that. You just kind of, the guests just show up, and I guess they rehearse on their own, but he took the extra time to practice with her band. So I think that just shows, of course, that J-Hope work ethic, or the BTS work ethic. Then they sang again, not together, but J-Hope, he sang Safety Zone, and he painted on a canvas. I think that's a thing that every guest does. They paint something to leave there on the show. It goes with the theme of the show, the IU palette. I just really liked the chemistry they had, so I think it was a very good choice for J-Hope to do an interview with her. The two of them got along really well, and IU just seems very confident and friendly and a good host of a show, because she for sure did her research and listened to his album and had questions and comments about the actual lyrics. So I have to respect that. She did such a good job with this interview and with this whole show, because J-Hope seemed very comfortable talking to her. So I mentioned earlier that Weverse seems to be trying some new features to be more like V-Live, and we know that they are merged together, so eventually it's going to be one site probably. But they started to use Weverse Live for doing a V-Live. So there's one with J-Hope, and then there's one with RM that they did live, and it seemed to work really well. I clicked on it when it happened, and it said, oh, this person's live on Weverse, or it said BTS is live, I think. It doesn't say which person until you get there. And so it worked. Everything was fine on that end, but okay, V-Live doesn't have subtitles right away, of course. You can't do that in real time. It takes at least a day. And, I think we've gotten used to, something happens on V-Live, check back later, 12 hours, 24 hours sometimes. And, the English subtitles are there. So, that's fine. We accept that. But, the Weverse Live videos, they did not have subtitles. I don't know if they ever added them, but 5 days later, 7 days later, they still did not have subtitles. So I don't know why they launched it if it wasn't ready to have it completely translated in at least English, but also, other languages, because, BTS is a very international fan community, and I'm sorry I didn't do the learn Korean with BTS. I didn't learn the language on my own yet. It's not easy for people, to just... I know they want us to know Korean, but it's I'm not there yet. And I still need subtitles. I need to see the words. So I'm just confused as to why they started using the Weverse Live if they don't intend to put subtitles there. Because, otherwise we have no choice and we have to go see it on YouTube, posted elsewhere where someone added the subtitles. And I don't think they want us to do that, because they're not going to get the views if it works that way. And that's just regressing, because the way VLive was set up, it was totally fine. Everybody liked it, and it was a reasonable amount of time to wait for subtitles. So hopefully they get their system worked out, and the next time they go live, they can get that transcribed and added within 24 hours. I think that's not too much to ask, 1 day later. Before we wrap up today, I had a question on Instagram from a listener named Nancy_T9. And I'm sure you've noticed that I've been doing the episodes solo for the past 3 months. She asked, is Morgan coming back to the podcast? First of all, he's perfectly fine. Nothing has happened to him. He's okay. I hope nobody was worried about his health or anything like that. When I first started the podcast, I wanted it to be a 2-person podcast. I think it's ideal for the flow of conversation, and also because the intent with the podcast was to provide different perspectives, like one person who's Army and one person that's Army from a different era, or someone who's not even Army, they're just like casual K-pop fan, coming at it from a different angle, because I think there's a lot of podcasts out there where it's too Army. So I think I was trying to differentiate myself a little bit. And so at that time, I could not find another person to podcast with that was willing to commit to that. Morgan was never meant to be involved in this at all, but he just happened to be a convenient person who is someone that I know who actually knows a lot about K-pop. And so he agreed to start the podcast with me just to get it going and make it easier. Because I think when you first start podcasting, it's kind of hard to be one person talking the whole time. Like that, or I don't know, maybe it's easy for other people, but for me, it's not that easy. And over time, that's gotten easier. So I don't think I don't necessarily need the second person, but I still think that would be the ideal for an episode. So I just have not been able to organize that. And he was not supposed to do this many episodes. He's on like 120 out of 130 episodes. And the last episode he was on was Bora Haggis Nights, posted on April 21st. And this was the one about the Permission to Dance Vegas concerts, which we both went to. So I thought it was great to hear, his first person experience from that. After that point, though, he's using his free time for his own hobbies rather than my hobby, which is this podcast. And he's not going to be coming back to the podcast on a weekly basis. He did say he might be willing to come back for an episode or two. Don't hold me to that. Don't quote me on that. But he said maybe, and we'll see what happens. He's put in so much time to this podcast, like way above and beyond what I ever intended. So I'm very thankful for that. And I think the podcast is in a place where if it's one person, it's fine. It's what I'm working with at the moment. So I should have mentioned this all to you 3 months ago. I can see from your perspective, you're used to hearing the both of us, and then Morgan's not here anymore all of a sudden, and you want to know why. So hopefully that answered the question. And feel free to send me any feedback on the podcast, especially if you have any suggestions on topics or even guests. You can listen to BTS Happy Hour on Samsung Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or visit btshappyhour.com. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.